Hey there, guys. So I want to thank you again for taking the time to check out today's live stream. So before I do get started, guys, I do want to, of course, share my website really quick. I won't make it too long, but again, if you do want to check out a little bit more of what I have to offer related to online fitness coaching, you can visit bponlinefitness.com, and that'll take you straight to my website. I have a ton of different links here where you can check out more of what I have to offer. There's free resources on here as well that you can check out. I have a client testimony area here where I explain some of the sort of successes that my clients have had. You have program info right here, which will take you to sort of understanding a little bit about the structure of online fitness coaching. You can also, of course, go to my fitness blog on here as well. I have some of the latest live streams and videos that I've posted on here. I try to keep everything updated as much as possible. And then right here at the top too, you also have, of course, the links to some of my social platforms, so you can check that out. The latest live stream is usually uploaded here on the homepage. And then, of course, there's a little bit more information. You can book your consultation. This takes you to my Instagram page. And then, of course, you can contact me here at the bottom. So you'll see all the same things here as you do like on mobile. So it's just structured a little bit different. But when you click on the join the team button, either here or on mobile, that'll take you to the top form to where you can schedule a consultation with me. So you just complete this form. It takes roughly 4 minutes. It doesn't take too long. And if you're interested in learning about online fitness coaching, I'll contact you within 24 hours of that form being submitted. So definitely check this out if this is something that you're interested in learning more about. So again, I just wanted to share that with you guys before I got started with our presentation that we're going over today. So in today's presentation here on, of course, YouTube, we're doing things a little bit different today as far as what we're talking about. So, what we're going to be going over today is on hormones, metabolism, and aging. So, this is a little bit different of a topic that I've not, sort of went into as much, even on sort of my other platforms. So, this is going to be a unique topic that we're going to be going over. But I do think that it does connect overall to, of course, who I want to reach. And also, I think it's very crucial to keep in mind, especially even if you are sort of at a later stage in your, fitness journey and you're trying to really get back on track. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times we can sort of see ourselves as just because we're at a certain age that we can't sort of reach the goal that we're wanting to reach. So that's the reason why I think this is a very timely topic, and I think you'll get some information out of this. I think this can help a lot of people, especially, again, if you're somebody who's 30 plus, I think this is very, will resonate with you. So there's going to be a few different points that we're going to be going over today in this topic. So, of course, we're going to be talking about a mix of metabolism and hormones, and of course, how that relates to aging overall. So, these are some of the few points that we're going to be discussing here today. This stream may be a little bit shorter than the other ones. It depends on how much I discuss. But with these different points, we're going to dive into various aspects when it comes to metabolism and hormones. So, we're going to go over metabolism. Is it broken? Muscle mass, your metabolic engine. Hormones don't just decline, they respond. Cortisol, the hidden fatigue and fat driver, and then insulin sensitivity. So, these are some of the points that we're really going to be diving into today and discussing. And again, I think you guys will find some great information that comes with this particular topic. I don't want it to be too boring because I know when you get into certain topics like this, it can sort of get boring to talk about. But I do think that a lot of this is really relevant to be aware of, in our journey. I think a lot of times we want to focus on, the exciting aspects of things, but it's important to keep these points in mind so that you're aware of, how your body reacts to, what you give it. So the first point that we're going to be going over, of course, is that your metabolism isn't broken. So your body adapts, it doesn't fail. So metabolism is going to adjust on your habits, nutrition, movement, sleep, and stress, and not just your age. This is something you really need to be aware of, is that when it comes to your metabolism, what you give your body is going to react to. It's going to react to what you give it. And it's going to learn to adapt to that. That's kind of the same concept, again, like what I've discussed with workouts and kind of what I've discussed today, because this is somewhat of an extension to that. However, this is somewhat separate in a lot of ways because we're talking more about the body and its reaction, as far as we age. But what I discussed yesterday was overall how our body adapts to strength. And so this is that same concept where when we're in workouts, our body adapts, to the stress that we put on it. And that's why if you watched me yesterday, I discussed that when we do workouts, it's best to consistently do that set of workouts for a few weeks so that our body is able to adapt to those workouts over time. So this is the kind of the same concept that we're talking about with metabolism. So with metabolism, as you adjust your habits, your nutrition, every aspect of your life, as you adjust it, your body is going to adapt to that. Hormones respond to your lifestyle. So hormones like insulin, cortisol, and thyroid hormones are influenced by how you eat, train, and recover. Again, your habits play a crucial role, how you progress. And a lot of times when we think of workout routines and, trying to, especially as we age, we think that, we can't reach a goal. But we can. It may take us a little bit longer to get there, but it's how we sort of learn to adapt and how we learn to shift our habits and shift, how we eat, train, again, and recover. It's those three pillars that I mentioned time and time again that we have to really balance with progression. And it doesn't matter what your age is. If you know how to, put these at the forefront in your routine and you are continuing to learn how to, make those changes, when it comes to your nutrition, being able to train, giving your body the stimulus it needs, and then recovering, that's going to make a huge difference. So aging changes inputs and not potential. So as you age, recovery, muscle mass, and activity levels may shift. So, like I mentioned, when we age, it does take a little bit longer for our body to maybe build and maintain that muscle. But it is still possible to build and maintain that muscle, even if it does take you a longer period of time. Now, like I've mentioned before, I've worked with a ton of different clients. When it comes to, as far as age groups, I've worked with various different types of clients. And I do have a client that is older and he's seen a great success with what I've given him. And keep in mind that he wasn't generally, fully aware of, just a second. Not sure what's happening here. Alrighty. I think we're back. So I apologize about that, guys. I don't know what happened there. So for some reason it's cutting out, of course, when I'm have something set up. But anyways, hopefully this will stay. I don't know why it's up and down sometimes when I stream. So, as we age, again, what you need to keep in mind is that recovery, again, in muscle mass and your activity levels may shift, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to progress. So, the next point that I want to go over as we press forward, and again, hopefully this will clear up. So, the next point we're going to go over is okay. Again, I apologize, guys. I don't know why this is going up and down like this. Okay, so maybe we're back again. Hopefully. So, muscle mass is your metabolic engine. So, when it comes to muscle mass, there's a few things that you need to keep in mind. And so, muscle is going to burn more when we are at rest. So, muscle tissue is a metabolically active, of course, aspect of our body, meaning that it requires more energy and calories even when you're not training. So, as you are building muscle, you will start to notice that your body will, of course, you know, be able to burn calories more, basically faster than, if somebody has a different sort of body weight. Like if somebody has less muscle, they won't burn as much at rest. But the more muscle that you gain, the more you're going to be able to like burn calories without you even having to do anything. So this is a really important thing to keep in mind that muscle gain can be, again, there's so much more to it. Like I've mentioned, outside of your physique and your training, there's so much more to it because it does help. Okay, guys, I really apologize. I really don't know why it's having issues here. Okay, maybe it's gonna clear up. I don't know why it does this. Okay. See, I don't want to speak any further because it'll cut out. So give me just a second and hopefully this will clear up because I don't want it to be buffering when you guys are like listening halfway and then you miss any of like everything I'm talking about. Okay. So it says the quality is good again, so hopefully we are back to where it needs to be. I'm trying not to speak over it as it's kind of buffering so that you don't miss anything that I'm saying. That's why I stopped talking for a second. But hopefully it'll go through this time around. So again, guys, I apologize. It does this randomly. It's like I get everything set up and then it messes up. So again, back to what we're talking about is that muscle mass, of course, the more muscle you have, the more your body's able to burn more at rest. So, higher muscle is going to lead to a higher baseline burn. So, the more lean muscle you carry, the more calories your body burns throughout the day, your resting metabolic rate, or RMR, in other words, increases. So, again, as you gain muscle, and like I said, we can gain muscle at any age. It may take us longer to get to a point to where we are able to build that over time, but we can. But when we focus on muscle mass and gaining that muscle, it is going to help us. And again, this relates to our metabolism and how our body is able to burn calories more efficiently. So this supports also your nutrition partitioning, which means muscle helps direct calories towards recovery and growth instead of fat storage itself, which in turn is going to improve insulin sensitivity, which we'll discuss further. Insulin sensitivity is probably a term that you may have heard, but that is where, your body is just using more fat. Your calories are not being directed to where they need to be. And so it's affecting, where, sort of that, where the fat storage is going, in other words. So that's where that comes from. So the next point we want to go over here is, of course, hormones don't just decline, they respond. So hormones are responsive and not fixed. So your hormones, again, this goes back to the same aspect of sort of what we mentioned about metabolism, and that your hormones are responsive and not fixed. So your hormones shift based on your sleep, your nutrition, your training, and stress, and not just age. So the more that you focus on shifting your habits, and that's a big thing that I've discussed, many times in these streams, is that the more that you shift your habits, the more it makes a difference. So sleep is going to drive hormone health. So poor sleep lowers testosterone, growth hormone, and recovery capacity. So when you have a proper sleep schedule, when you have, again, when, like I've mentioned in previous streams, when you have a time to where you have a bedtime, set in place, and then you have a wake up time, the more that you build this consistent rhythm, the more it's going to help with your overall hormones. Now, another thing too to keep in mind is not only, your sleep that's going to drive hormone health, but nutrition is going to, of course, signal growth or survival. So, one thing I mentioned many times when it comes to nutrition is that with nutrition and your hormones, a great nutrient to really focus on is generally your fats. So, macronutrients, what I've discussed before, with macronutrients, of course, you have your three major nutrients that make up your macros. And that's your, of course, proteins, carbs, fats. So you have all of those nutrients, which the reason why they're called macronutrients is you consume them in large amounts. So the reason why I'm mentioning this alongside hormones is that healthy fats, when you include healthy fats in your diet, and this can be, anything like when we're talking about olive oil, we're talking about avocados, this could be nuts and seeds, any kind of foods like that are generally going to be really good at, with, your hormones. So fats really play an important role in helping to, sort of give your hormones, regulation, in other words. So nutrition again, it signals growth or survival. So under eating tells your body to conserve energy. So hormones deregulate. So eating enough supports performance, recovery, and muscle growth. So training is sending the build signal. So keep in mind, like I've mentioned before, is that when it comes to muscle gain, our body's not really growing from the workouts we give it. It's actually growing from, of course, the rest side of things. So yes, when we do workouts and resistance training, that's going to stimulate, excuse me, anabolic hormones that are going to support muscle and strength. And so when you go into your recovery side of things, you have to think about, again, giving your body what it needs so that when your body is, after it's going through that build signal in your workouts and your resistance training, from there going into, of course, your recovery, your nutrition, and making sure that you keep that in mind. So, again, like I've mentioned before, is that when you balance your workouts, your nutrition, your recovery, that's what's going to really lead to those results that you're looking for. So the next point I want to mention is cortisol. So cortisol is the hidden fatigue and fat driver. So I've discussed cortisol in a few other streams before, but I do want to mention it here as well because it does play a key role when it comes to, the difference with your hormones and metabolism, and it can play a role in how those are affected in your overall progress. So, cortisol is basically a stress hormone in the body. And generally, when you don't get enough sleep or you have a high amount of stress, this is what's going to increase. It's not a great thing to have a high cortisol level, in other words. So, cortisol isn't the enemy, it's the alarm system. So, it helps you wake up, train, and respond to stress. But a chronic elevation is a problem. So it's that high amount of cortisol that can really affect progress. So chronic stress, when you're constantly stressed, this is what's turning your cortisol into being constantly on. So there's many ways that affect this. And of course, one of the major ways is your poor sleep. If you're having poor sleep, you're under recovered, and there's a lot of life stress, this keeps your cortisol level elevated, which leads to longer term fatigue and not energy. So this breaks down more than it builds. So high cortisol over time can interfere with muscle recovery and increase muscle breakdown. So what this does is this blunts performance and progress. So you may feel wired but tired at the same time. So this can lower your strength output and poor pumps in your workout as well as slower recovery. So again, that's why I mentioned that your sleep is a very crucial part of managing this, because when you focus on managing your sleep, this is really going to help to, again, lower that cortisol level to a sustainable place to where it's not affecting your progress. Because once this is elevated so long, it does hinder progress and you being able to, again, get to the results that you're looking for. So again, the reason why I'm mentioning these things is that the more that you get a lot of these different aspects under control, the more that it's going to help. Now, again, it doesn't matter how old we are, it's about how we become more aware of these things that may be hindering, our overall, progression in our exercises. So the last major point that I want to mention is insulin sensitivity. So what does insulin sensitivity means? This is how effectively your body uses carbohydrates to fuel muscle instead of storing them as fat. So like what I mentioned previously, is your body, of course, when you have, again, a higher amount of, sort of that metabolism, your hormones are properly regulated, you're having your body, store that energy in a proper way. So insulin sensitivity, again, is how your body is using that carbohydrates and that fuel for the muscles. So the better sensitivity, the better fuel used. So nutrients are directed towards muscle repair, recovery, and performance. So again, when you focus on, having a quality amount of carbohydrates, a quality amount of your recovery, you know, in your nutrition, this is going to help those levels. And this is going to, again, be influenced by, your overall lifestyle at the same time. So poor sensitivity is going to lead to energy mismanagement. So more calories are going to be stored, less is going to be used, and that's going to lower energy for harder fat loss. Muscle mass is going to, of course, improve that sensitivity. So, again, going back to that same concept I mentioned earlier, where when we have a higher amount of muscle mass, we burn more at rest, of course. This is also important too when it comes to the aspect of insulin sensitivity. So, muscle mass is going to, of course, lead to more storage space for those carbs, which, of course, is glycogen, which allows you to have more energy. And this is going to lead to overall better performance and recovery in your workout routine, in your exercises, in your day-to-day life at the same time. So the more that you, again, when you have that higher amount of muscle mass, that's going to help a ton with your overall, with how your body reacts to, again, where it stores that energy. And that's all you need to know when it comes to the aspect of insulin sensitivity itself. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys today in this stream. I know this was a little bit shorter than some of the other ones that I've done here on YouTube. If there is another sort of topic that you would like me to discuss in the future, feel free to let me know. Again, guys, like I mentioned, my website, bponlinefitness.com, is where you can check out a ton of information that I have to offer related to online fitness coaching. So if you watched the beginning of my stream, I did share that there. So definitely check that out if that's something that you're interested in. If there's a topic that you guys would like me to discuss in a future YouTube live stream, feel free to let me know. And I would definitely love to go into that topic. Again, I try to make my focus to make some of these streams, or all of them, I should say, digestible and understandable. And again, I want you to be able, for you guys to understand that this information is for you to make use of. It's not just something that I'm just sharing randomly. It does have, a lot of benefit when you make use of it. So keep in mind, again, like what I've mentioned today, this is all practical stuff that you can change. Of course, it does take time to change, like I mentioned with your habits and your recovery. It does take time, but this can be integrated, into your life if you, take note of it and really focus on shifting your habits into healthier ones, in other words. So again, keep in mind that no matter as we age, to give you an overview, no matter as we age, we can still, again, gain muscle. We can still have a higher, sort of calorie burn when it comes to metabolism. Our hormones can be regulated. But again, the way that we can benefit that is all with how we manage our lifestyle and how we are able to, again, focus on, having, exercise and movement throughout the day, having proper nutrition, staying recovered, having a proper sleep schedule. And so all of that's going to connect together in how we see results. And of course, even as we age, that progress can still happen. So again, guys, I really hope that you found this helpful and valuable. If you have any questions on anything I've discussed here today, feel free to let me know. But again, guys, I appreciate your time. And I apologize about the issues with the stream. Hopefully that won't happen next time. But thank you guys once again for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys in the next live stream next Thursday.